Kenneth. I like the hair.
It's finally growing back. I don't have random things sticking to it when I pass it around the house now. So
Good to see you.
We are broadcasting.
Hello, everybody. We're just going to get started here in a moment. My clock says 6:58. We're just making sure with our information technology folks that we are live streaming properly. And I'm getting the thumbs up from our IT folks. So welcome everyone to our first council meeting for 2021. It's great to see everybody. I trust everyone got a bit of a rest over the holiday. I know I did, and I feel much more refreshed going in after a few weeks off. So, and I hope you had the chance to put your feet up a little bit too and get your batteries recharged. As well as staff. I know staff have been burning the candle at both ends, so I hope also that they had a bit of time to relax with their family. By opening the meeting for this evening, and I'd like to let everybody know that it is being audio and video recorded and live streamed on the town's Innisfil YouTube channel. And it shall form part of the public record, which will be retained according to the town's retention bylaw. And Clerks has more information about that bylaw if you're interested in it. So the first item on the agenda then would be the open forum. And I'd ask the Deputy Clerk to see if anybody signed up for open forum for this meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. We did not have any takers this evening.
Thank you for that. I think everybody wants to watch a hockey game tonight, maybe. I don't know. So next up on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So we had one agenda repair. We had one late report come on, which is E1. So could I get a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as amended? Councillor Waters and Councillor Fowler. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Next, I would ask if there's any disclosure of interest. Seeing no hands, if one comes to your attention during our discussion, please just let us know at that time. Next is item 5, presentations and petitions. And we have one item tonight, Mr. Dudley, who's going to present council with a petition. Mr. Dudley, welcome, and you can turn your video and audio on now if you would like to present your petition. Welcome to our meeting.
Hi, thanks for allowing me to speak. Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, councillors, and all of the staff that are here. First of all, Happy New Year. I'm Bob Dudley. I'm a long-term resident of Big Bay Point. I've lived on West Street for almost 24 years. And I'm here to present a petition that was actually submitted by Michelle Jerza / Simpson on behalf of the residents of Plan 39, Big Bay Point. And essentially that's West Street, East Street, South Street, and the northern part of the 30th. And for 34 years, the beach, which is Block B, Plan 1139, at the end of West Street has been considered private use for subdivision plan 1139. And in 2019, the town made the decision that that beach would be public. And this is a decision that's clearly hurtful to all of the residents of plan 1139. It's probably a decision that's, net neutral to the town. I can't think of what benefits or detriments to the town there would be. And it's clearly to the benefit of Friday Harbor, and I'll explain that as I go along. So in essence, this petition is to ask the town to reverse its decision that the beach be public or to hold a council vote in that regard. And, request that you revert to the 35-year-old precedent that the beach was meant for Plan 1139 only. So let me just run through some of the background and the history on that beach. And that property was given to the town in 1985 by John Coop, who is the owner of Plan 1139, and he subdivided that property into about 80 lots, and at the time gave Block B, Plan 1139, to the town. And until 2019, both the town lawyers, my lawyers, and the residents have all agreed and understood that that meant for the residents of Plan 1139 only. And in 2007, the town documented their response to a query I made, agreeing that it was for private use only by Plan 1139. And they'd even erected a sign at the entrance to the beach saying it was for Plan 1139 only and their guests. And that sign's since been removed. In 2019, the town unilaterally decided that since the deed did not exclude anyone, therefore it was for everyone, hence it was public. The residents were not notified of that decision. However, Friday Harbor was aware, and they started using it for their visitors. They even advertised in Toronto and on their websites for people to come to Friday Harbor and use the beaches. In 2020, Friday Harbor went to the extent of removing a piece of fencing between their property and our property, or your property, to be precise. They removed a piece of fencing. They brought in fill, gravel, removed some brush and small trees, and then covered it all over in nice pine bark, a nice professional job linking their property to the beach property. And then they started directing their visitors to that beach. And when they did that in 2020, they were enforcing social distancing on their beach. But when they directed people to Block B beach, they did not enforce any social distancing. So on busy weekends, unless you are willing to be non-socially distanced, you couldn't use that beach. And there were numerous times that my wife and I went down there and had to turn around and come home. So the only beneficiary of the town's decision has been Friday Harbor, who in essence have just taken over that beach as theirs to direct their guests to it. Now we have a lot of residents, many with small children, and they've lost some use of that beach. And they've also lost property value since when we bought our properties, they were advertised as having beach access, which everyone understood to be private, which the town no longer supports and says it's public. So we'll lose, in theory, some property value when we try and sell, because we'll no longer be able to say we've got that beach to ourselves. And a lot of people bought in this community, particularly for its unique character. And there's a lot of small communities throughout Innisfil who have their own unique character. The people of Big Bay Point especially love the character of our community and the ability to have that beach. So there's two legal opinions. The one that the town has recently adopted that basically uses a technicality that says because it didn't exclude anyone, it's therefore for everyone, therefore it's public. And then there's the original opinion that my lawyers and even the town lawyers and everybody else has supported for 34 years, that when Mr. Coop said that property was to be used by Plan 1139 residents, he had meant it to be for our use only. If he'd meant it to be public, he would either have said it's for public use, or he could have excluded any wording at all, and it would have defaulted to public use. But because he said it was for our use and didn't exclude anyone or didn't include anyone else, our opinion is that that beach should be retained as private use for our community, which we believe is the original intent of Mr. John Coop. So it can be argued either way by lawyers who have no vested interest in the community. But we feel strongly that the decision really should be made by the people we elect, who we put our faith in to make the right decisions for the community and the constituents you support. So we're appealing to the council to reverse its decision, or at least hold a council vote on the disposition of that property. And again, as I said earlier, we don't see any benefit or downside to the town in reversing the decision. The only beneficiary of it is Friday Harbor, to the detriment of the people that live here. So again, we're asking council reverse its decision and vote on it. So essentially that's it. I appreciate your time listening to me on behalf of the local residents. I've sent prior correspondence that the town should have on record, but if you require any more, I can provide it on request. So, or request it from Michelle Jerza, who's actually submitted the petition, but you can contact either one of us and we can provide you with whatever information you require. So thanks for your time. Hopefully I've kept that under 10 minutes.
You did, Mr. Dudley. Thank you very much. Just stay with us for a few minutes and we'll see
Sure.
if anyone has any questions. Just to be clear, there will not be a vote tonight because it is not on our agenda. So I just want to, manage those expectations. But we'll see what council has to say and if council has any questions for you.
Okay.
Questions for Mr. Dudley. Deputy Mayor Davidson.
Thank you, Your Worship. For clarification, Mr. Dudley, when Friday Harbor brings their guest over, I just want clarification that it's not residents who are living at Friday Harbor, but it's actually day trippers who are coming up. They cannot use the beach at Friday Harbor, so they're being moved over to this beach next to Friday Harbor. Is that correct?
I would assume for the most part, but without asking them specifically, are they out of town guests or are they residents? I couldn't say 100%, but you're probably right.
Yes.
As a follow-up, Your Worship, it was brought to my attention, Mr. Dudley, this summer that people had pictures or caught people defecating or urinating in the trees along that river, and that when Friday Harbor took down the fence, there is a creek that exists there, and they actually impacted the side of the creek, the flora and fauna. Is that correct?
Yes. Now, we did not have a picture of the person that was defecating, but my wife and I were there, and he was in the ditch with his pants down, and we chased him off literally, and he ran off pulling his pants up. I wish I had it on video because it would be great on YouTube.
Okay. So my second question part there was that when Friday Harbor took down the fence, removed trees and the flora and fauna to put down the gravel and the whatever, cedar, that they probably impacted that creek that was leading into Lake Simcoe. And if I'm correct, under the Lake Simcoe Protection Act, any river.
No, it was on the other side, right? The creek is on the other side of the pathway going down, but they would have impacted some runoff along that side of the fence.
Okay, because if I'm correct, under the Lake Simcoe Protection Act, all creeks and rivers that enter Lake Simcoe are protected. So something maybe the town can take a look at too. I do understand the fence has been put back up. Is that correct?
It's being put up, taken down, and put back up. My wife actually complained to Friday Harbor this year, and as a result, they did put the fence back up, which was somebody, and I'm guessing it was somebody locally in our community actually that tore it down. I don't know for sure, but it got torn down and it is subsequently being put back up.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate those points of clarification. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Dudley. I did go, sorry, I've got something just popping up here on my screen. I did have an opportunity to go down and take a look at this area. Councillor Payne was kind enough to show me where it was, and I've taken some pictures. Just a couple of questions. When you're referring to the fence that's up now, is that the same length of fence in the same area that was up before, or is it shorter or different? I'm trying to figure out whether it went in the water before, because this one is just about 5 feet away from the water.
Right, and that fence goes right to the high water mark, which according to law is as far as you're allowed to put a fence. You can't put a fence into the water. So Friday Harbor, their fence goes to exactly where they're allowed to at the waterfront.
Okay, thank you. And then another question, because as a councillor in my ward, I also have access points with residents that have deeded rights. However, it does allow the public to be able to use that as well. Question, when you said that this was for the private use of the residents of Plan 1139, did you as a group pay taxes on this property prior to it going to the town public 2019?
John Coop owned that property up until 85 and would have paid taxes. After 85, the property was given to the town, so it's town property. Nobody pays taxes.
Right. So just that's the one difference I noticed in my ward is that the one I have a section that goes into the lake, little narrower than yours. The residents do have deeded rights, but they don't pay taxes. So therefore it does allow some public access. The ones that are completely private, such as all the members of the Alcona Beach Club, the ABC Club, they have land, they have it gated. It's for those residents only, but they all combined have to pay the taxes on that waterfront and that property. So
yeah, and there's one similar to that out in Big Bay Point as well.
Certainly be interested in looking at the report back from staff on this later, should this come to council. And wanted to thank you for your presentation. And as I said, I did have an opportunity to go out and look at the site. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Waters, did I see your hand?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Your Worship. I want to thank Mr. Dudley for his presentation and plus the email that he did send to us to give us some background history on that property. I can certainly understand why the community would be terribly upset at this, because it seems that Friday Harbor seems to have taken this over. But I just want to make a comment that the biggest design flaw in Friday Harbor is the design of the beach area. It is way too small, excessively small for a development that big, and they should have seen this coming. To have such a small beach with the huge numbers that they're anticipating at Friday Harbor. So it would be kind of nice maybe to approach Friday Harbor to see when there's another opportunity to create a secondary beach on the other side of the channel that would make that a little bit larger and might ease some of the pressure that's on this this beach that we're seeing. So just more of a comment than anything else. Thank you.
Yeah, but, you know, mentioning Friday Harbor, actually, my wife and I were some of the few people that actually supported Friday Harbor when it was being presented to the town. And my wife and I had informal discussions both with Mario, Cheryl, even Earl Rum. We had dinner at his house and we talked about it with him. I know he's no longer involved. And we had a tour with Shauna Dudding, who took us through the whole construction zone, and we took her to the beach. And she was surprised that they didn't own that beach. And so, you know, I clarified that, no, it's the town owns that beach. It's not Friday Harbor's. And I think Cheryl and Mario were probably a little surprised as well. But that's going back into
Before construction.
yeah, before construction. So they were well aware. You know, again, informally, I have no documentation, but you know, we did have discussions with all of them at various meetings, and you know, they knew it wasn't their property. Not to say they didn't have designs on it, but they were well aware it was not theirs.
Councillor Payne.
Sorry?
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you, Mr. Dudley, for coming out and explaining all of this to all the rest of the councillors. I have a question for the operations is when where are the signs that used to be there? There was signs, and I went down there when Jason Inwood was and that was a couple of summers ago. And there were signs to say who could get in and who couldn't. That's when the fence was opened by Friday Harbor. And the way that the pathway was done, it infuriated him because it was all done incorrectly. The gravel and the stones were put over the roots of the trees. And he said, if that stays, the trees are going to die. So it wasn't done right. It was just a cut in the wire. It wasn't even a gateway. So to see it back up again was it was good to see because it needed to be done. Unfortunately, the fence that goes down there is very insecure. Anybody can climb over that fence because it's not a good quality fence. So I think it should be, you know, changed for sure. But that's, you know, I guess that's Friday Harbor will have to do that. But I think I think there needs to be more signage to make sure that people know what property belongs to Friday Harbor and what property belongs to the town and to this block 1139 that belongs to these residents. So it needs to be straightened around a little bit so everybody knows, because right now nobody knows where they're going and who it's for. So I think it needs to be clear that this belongs to those residents, even though the town owns it. It would be nice to keep up the whole thing of it's their little part of the beach. So I think it should remain that way. Anyway, I thank you very much for coming out and saying your piece, and hopefully we can get something worked out for you all.
Yeah, can I make just one last comment to Councillor Orsatti? I know the town probably has 30, 40, or 50 of these small beaches within Innisfil. And, you know, they're all unique, you know, and they have different situations in terms of their deeding, their ownership, et cetera. So, you know, I don't think there's a one solution fits all for the different beaches. I think most of them are going to be individual decisions with some consistency, I hope. But if this property is deemed to be public, unlike some of the other beaches that have residences on either side of them, we have a large, you know, conglomerate beside us who is just going to take over that beach if it's made public. So, you know, I think the situation is clearly different from a lot of the others that are deeded but public. This one will just get swallowed up by Friday Harbor.
Thank you. Mr. Parkin, did you have a comment?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to clarify a couple things I've heard mentioned. The wording that's on the plan of subdivision with respect to this piece of land does provide for the use of that piece by those residents in the area, but it doesn't specifically prevent the town or the owner of the land, happens to be the town, from using that land as they wish as well. And so the town makes it public because, you know, we generally do that unless there's a reason not to. And as long as it doesn't interfere with the use for those residents, and there's nothing that we could do to block or restrict those specific residents from. So if we ever transferred the land to somebody else, those rights would flow with the land as well. And I heard mentioned that all the lawyers had agreed in the past that it was exclusively for those residents. I can only speak to what I've seen since in my time here. I started in this town solicitor role in 2016. So, and I've only really been engaged on this issue for the last year and a half or so, but we did obtain an external legal opinion which reviewed the previous legal opinion from 2003 and confirmed that we did have that legal right to open it to the public if we wish. So I just wanted to make that clarification as well, that legally there's no exclusive use for those residents as long as it's not interfering with their rights to use it as well.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and I've heard the arguments before. And to me, you know, it's a technicality because it doesn't exclude anyone. You're saying it's therefore public. And I understand that argument. I just don't agree with it. I agree with originalism in terms of what was intended by Mr. Coop. So, you know, my request is honor the original intent of Mr. Coop. And as I said, I don't think there's any benefit one way or the other to the town, whether you consider it for our use only or whether it's public use. There's really, you know, I can't think of what the benefit would be, and I can't think of a downside. So I can't understand why the town would want to insist that it be public, particularly knowing that then, in essence, just gives that property over to Friday Harbor, who will use it for their own purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. I'm going to just take a moment to go back to try to provide you with some history of the direction and how we got to where we are today. So you are correct. We have about 46 road ends, and there was a report came to council, I'm going to say 3 or 4 council terms ago, suggesting that we do get rid of some, not get rid of them, but divest ourselves of some of the very, very small ones that were just more or less easements, and then take the funds from those and either sell them to the neighbors or take some funds from those and put those funds into making the more prominent road ends bigger and better. And we were met with massive opposition for this plan. Within about 2 months of making that decision, we re-evaluated it and made a promise to residents that we would not divest ourselves of access to the water. Since then, council's strategy was to do what the residents of Innisfil wanted and make as much access to water as we could. So I guess when you're talking about the downside, Mr. Dudley, the downside is this. There is every person on this, oh, except for maybe Councillor Ices, because he doesn't have any waterfront in his ward, but there's not one person on this council who doesn't have somebody who's in exactly the same situation, who has had deeded access to that and wants it only to be for the residents in that plan of subdivision. And we've had residents who have lived next to very, very, very busy road ends that have 3 or 4 public companies running ice huts off of them, coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning. I guess what I want to say is there's an argument for every single one why it should be private for that group of people around there. The issue for me here is that we have to make sure that whatever decision we make, we're prepared to make it for all of the road ends, or have a very good argument as to why one road end is different than the other 46 that also have deeded rights. So I just wanted to make that point, Councillor Waters, and then I that the CAO also had a comment.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to make the comment that, and everyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but did we not have a discussion last year about a road end that was wanting to be purchased by neighboring homeowners? And I thought we agreed to allow that to happen. I'm just kind of curious, because this community has such a large corporate entity next to it that it is easily overrun by those visitors there, and certainly would take away from the enjoyment of the residents who originally thought it was part of deeded access and private access to the lake. That could we not revisit this in terms of allowing that parcel land to be sold to the residents of that plan so that they could purchase it and use it as a private beach for themselves, and we would just disown it? Since we've considered that with other road ends, why would we not do it here, where clearly the citizens of Big Bay Point are not going to be able to use that piece of property because of the huge entity that's next door? Just an option.
Thank you, Councillor. CAO Rayner, and then I think I saw Councillor Sadi. Oh, and Mr. Parkin.
Thank you, Worship. Members of Council. Just a couple of quick comments to aid in the discussion. The first piece is that we're certainly happy to brief the new CEO of Friday Harbor on this issue. And Mr. Dudley, you can rest assured I'll speak to him personally about this. I haven't had a chance to meet him, of course, in the pandemic. But we will be connecting virtually in the next few weeks, I'm sure. So I'll make sure that this issue is on their radar. I think, if we're looking at root causes, I think Mr. Dudley's point is that if there was appropriate use of this space and management from our very important tourism partner at Friday Harbor, things might go along a lot way this coming spring or summer. So we'll take that action item without necessarily a council direction to do that. The second point is, I think, we keep our road ends, we want to keep our road ends in good repair. So we don't need council direction to do that. And if there are any issues with fencing and this kind of stuff, we'll definitely look at that. We'll trigger the customer service inquiry and follow up in the spring for sure. What has typically happened, Council, and for you, Mr. Dudley, as well, is if there are residents in a particular area that are interested in acquiring a particular public parcel that's owned by the town, they can present that proposal, and staff are obligated to bring that proposal to council for their consideration. So that may be something that is an option for you, although I think you've heard the mayor's comments about the importance of lake access. And to that point, which is my last story, is that we do have a capital project. Mr. Kane reminded me that we do have the Lake Enjoyment Strategy, which is a capital project for this year, and that will be looking at Big Bay Point lake access specifically. So there should be some good work done on that in this coming year in front of us as well. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Did I see any more hands? Okay. Seeing none, then the recommendation on the agenda is for the petition to be received. And Mr. Dudley, you said that the clerk's office already has the petition, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We have some direction that's been going to be looked at from staff that don't need a council direction to do so. So I'm asking then, is there any amendments to this recommendation, or would I ask for a mover and a seconder that the petition be received? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Your Worship. To the recommendation that the petition regarding deeded beach access to West Street Block B Plan 1139 be received and a report sent back to council and to the residents of that particular block on block and Plan 139.
So can I ask for a friendly amendment that a report be come back to council and that the residents be notified as opposed to mailing a report out to everyone? And do you have a seconder for that recommendations, Deputy Mayor? Councillor Ices is your seconder. Okay, discussion on the amendment. Mr. Rayner.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just any further clarification or direction from council, from the Deputy Mayor would be helpful. And I ask that because the legal circumstances of this particular situation are quite clear, and I wouldn't want us spending more money on external legal or tying up our legal department, who is very busy with pandemic interpretation at the moment on this issue. So I think it's just a matter of where you'd like to go, what kind of options are you looking for. I've certainly shared with you what I think administration will do on this file. So just would be really helpful to have any clarity about what you'd like to see in the report coming back. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. The clarification is that your conversation with the new CEO of Friday Harbor clearly understands the implication of having day guests use this particular public beach. And if we are still under the COVID restrictions in this coming summer, hopefully not, but who knows, that the conversation is clearly explained to the residents and council their perspective on using this beach, and let's put it clear, and using this beach for their own sake. They're making money from it, so.
Thank you. So did you want to amend the recommendation then to say have staff report back after discussions with Friday Harbor regarding operational issues?
That would be, I think, appropriate to help out the residents. Carolyn, I'd like to see her opinion on that because it's her and I that have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely, I'd definitely like to make sure that the residents are notified and that they know what's going on, so they can have their say in what's happening.
That's in there, Carolyn. So I think we've got that covered, so we're good there.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Worship. Definitely hypersensitive to road ends. Deal with many of them before. Just for clarification, I'm looking online here. Can we just determine that is 3876 East Street in Innisfil? Just making sure I'm looking at the right property. And if so, my only concern, I have no concern with this going back to staff, just for clarification. But my understanding is Friday Harbor are actually residents as well too, so they are taxpayers. So if it was an open place, it is open to everybody. So I can understand the sensitivities of this, especially with small deeded accesses, which I'm well aware of here, especially in Guildford. And I don't have a problem with looking into it a little deeper. But as a CAO said, that if legal opinion is where it is, unless we're looking to divest this certain piece of property, and I haven't heard that in any of the petition that the current residents would like to purchase this property, I don't know where what I'm missing, I guess is what I'd say. So again, hypersensitive to the issues with the residents are having, but if it is open to the public legally, that's all, taxpayers and their guests as well too. So, and it appears to be right next to the current beach area of Friday Harbor as well. So just comments, but I have no problem supporting the Deputy Mayor and looking a little deeper into this for sure. And I have nothing but respect for Mr. Dudley and the issues they're dealing with. So just my 2 cents, and we'll see where this goes, I guess.
Thanks, Councillor Nickel. The address is correct, but I think the comment was about Friday Harbor putting in that walkway and the fence without the town's permission and making it, there's having something publicly open and then there's having something publicly advertised. And I think that maybe was where the difference was. Councillor Waters?
Thank you. I wouldn't mind if this report would at least investigate whether or not the residents would be interested in if we were to sell the that property back to the residents, when that would be an option they would be interested. So whether or not we could include in the report when that's an option, as opposed to, because I can just see this being a problem every single year, whether we have COVID or not, that beach that Friday Harbor has is just way too small, and that any option to use to enlarge it is going to happen. And so I can't see the residents from this point on ever enjoying that beach if Friday Harbor has access to it. So I think if they want to have it as a private beach, I think this report should investigate the option whether or not that would be something they would be interested in, and that we entertain it as one of the items in this report.
Thank you, Councillor. I think it would be actually, Mr. Dudley's heard it. He knows that it would be an option of the residents if they wanted to come forward, but I think it'd be inappropriate for us to direct staff to ask somebody else if they wanted to purchase it. But I think Mr. Dudley's heard us loud and clear and understands that, you know, if he wants to get a group of residents and provide an offer to the town, that, as Mr. Rayner said, that it would have to be presented to us. Is that fair?
Thank you.
All right, so we have a recommendation on the table, and we have a mover that was Deputy Mayor Davidson, and the seconder was Councillor Ices, but we've altered it a couple of times. So I just want to confirm with both mover and seconder that they were still okay with the recommendation as is now written.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, the amendment.
All in favor of the recommendation? Those opposed? Were you opposed? I didn't get, I'm going to do that again. I think there was some frozen screens. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Dudley, for being with us here tonight and presenting. And as you can see, we'll be getting some more information back. And residents in your neighborhood will be notified when that report comes back.
Thanks for everybody's time. Appreciate all of the discussion that ensued after the presentation. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, so that takes us to delegations, and I believe there are no delegations for this evening. So the next item would be the updates. I think we should probably start with what is probably the most important one, which is the Emergency Operations Center update. As you remember from the last meeting, we will make these now on regularly as long as we are in an emergency, and they will always be verbal, because honestly, by the time you could even write this stuff down, it would be, you'd have to be changing it because it'd be out of date. So Johnny, I'm sorry, Mr. Keogh, welcome, and be happy to be provided with that update.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to council and the public, and thank you for that introduction. Definitely very important to highlight that you know, so much of this is changing really as we write it. So I guess first off as well, this update does cover 2 EOC meetings. We did have one on December 30th, and we did have one just last Thursday. So back in December, we did have 2 positive COVID-19 cases within our workforce. The employees and their families are well. Impacted staff and close contacts have completed the required isolation and return back to work now. As with any COVID-19 cases, we did work hand in hand with the health unit to follow their process and public health guidelines. No doubt the public is aware that yesterday on January the 12th, the province announced additional public health measures that are being implemented to further prevent the spread of COVID-19, including a stay at home. Residents should know that just because we have that announcement from the Premier, it doesn't mean we have all the guidelines and information we need just yet. So we're still, as we speak, just sifting through everything here, still waiting for the province to give us all those details. In particular, we're waiting for clarification, or at least trying to sort out and clarify when it comes to enforcing this order, what that means for our bylaw enforcement team and our other town services. Another item we were interested in is clarity when it comes to outdoor gatherings. As residents know and are excited, no doubt, our operations team has been busy setting up more outdoor rinks, and they continue to do so. But at the same time, we do need clarity on whether those are truly still permitted under the order. In the meantime, our rinks are being monitored for compliance with COVID restrictions, and there is an internal group that has been set up that's working on developing further winter outdoor programming. And again, I know I'm a broken record, but a lot of this depends on what we are seeing from the province. From the health unit, as of today, we have so far had 4,447 cases, and we currently have 1,205 active in our region. The province is showing, unfortunately, no signs of improvement as indicated by the release of the recent projections. In terms of vaccinations, Barrie is the 4th leading clinic in the province for vaccine administration, with over 8,600 doses as of today. The health unit is hoping to have a long-term care facility vaccinations completed by the end of this week. Staff have been preparing for what our town operations, all of our services look like with an extended shutdown. Generally, we are pleased to that most businesses are complying with the COVID-19 regulations. And just one last note here that commercial ice huts are not permitted. So we will be having some further communications to the public about that. And perhaps just adding on one last note too is that we have an EOC meeting tomorrow. Yourselves and the public can probably brace themselves for more details from us, working as fast as we can just to get that information out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keogh. Just for clarification, the number of cases that Mr. Keogh talked about were for all of Simcoe Muskoka. Innisfil, as of today, has had 381 total cases, and we have 93 active, 2 in the hospital, and sadly, 1 person has died. But that's where we stand in Innisfil, and we're doing relatively well compared to our neighbors. Bradford has about double the number of cases that we do, and of course Barrie has a lot more as well. So we're holding our own, but it's not good enough. Sadly, when we're ill, we're going to be going to either RVH or South Lake or Stevenson Memorial, and those hospitals are all very, very busy places right now. Questions or comments? Councillor Waters.
Just a quick question on vaccines and vaccinations. Right now, where they're trying to get long-term care residents done, does that include seniors residents, i.e. Lakeside and those types of places? Or is that kind of the next wave of vaccinations that are coming through?
I can help out with that one because I sit on the health, the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. So I can tell you that the long-term care is this week, and they hope to have them done by the end of this week. And then starting next week, they're going to be going into retirement homes.
Thank you. That's good to know.
Councillor Van Berkel.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, we got my aunt's in Tollendale, and we got a call today actually saying that they're going to start vaccinating tomorrow. So just to let you know.
Great news. Any other questions for Mr. Keogh? Thank you very much. Appreciate you doing this. And you missed one. We had one December 22nd too. So this is
Yes.
last time. But it's a busy group, and really appreciate everybody pivoting. And it's very difficult to interpret these orders until we see the regulations, but we were very fortunate to have our secret weapon, Ms. Verbosch, who is really good at translating very complicated regulations and putting them into plain language for us. We do really appreciate that, and all of the EOC team that has been working so very hard. Thank you. County Council, Deputy Mayor, do you have an update for County Council?
Thank you. Yeah, County Council was fairly short this week, which was surprising. But however, we did get an update from Jane Sinclair, and I'd like Council to know that Jane Sinclair is head of our retirement homes, nursing homes we have in Simcoe County. And she and her team have done an amazing job of dedication, of working hard to reduce the impact of COVID within these homes. And they have had some very serious cases. So as council, I want you to know that the team at Simcoe County is right on top of it. And we have some of the best staff protecting our seniors. And I think she deserves the respect that this council for doing such a great job. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said. And I know when she was giving us an update at County Council and started talking about her residents getting vaccinated, she was getting very emotional about it. So it's for the people who live it every day. It's really something. Anybody else who have things that they'd like to bring forward regarding municipal associations? Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just we had our first meeting for the traffic technical calming committee, and I just thought I'd bring you up to date on that. It was, of course, the startup meeting, and a large array of subjects were covered. The stuff like what's involved with the project, terms of reference, community engagement, development and calming policies, background info, and town data, best procedures, new technologies, develop pilot projects, prepare strategy, assist town with, delayed procurements, develop pilot assessment criteria, monitor and adjust pilots, analyze data, prepare summary reports, review traffic calming guides from other jurisdictions, prepare outline of traffic guide, prepare the community and education and engagement plan, a 10-year traffic calming project. Just went on and on and on, and I can probably talk for another 5 minutes, but you get the gist and drift of what was going on, and this will probably bring up at the next school zone traffic committee. But I wanted you to know that we did have a meeting, and it is rolling, and I'll keep you updated whenever there is a meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Van Berkel, and in services too, that, you know, we had a budget meeting, but I guess we're going to hear more about that a little bit later, but.
I think that's coming up.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have any committees? Councillor Nicol?
Your Worship, it has been quite a while, but just obviously yourself, the Deputy Mayor, and myself were involved in the audit committee meeting just yesterday, I believe it was, and we'll be getting a report to council coming in a few months from that as well. And just for those that may be interested, the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, we did have a meeting back in December, but our AGM is coming up on January 28th for those that may be interested in participating in that. So that's all for now.
Thank you. Anyone else? I wanted to just point out that South Simcoe Police, as of December 31st, we said goodbye to Deputy Chief Robin McElroy Downer and While we said goodbye to her, she still has her role as Chief Aide de Camp for the Lieutenant Governor. So she'll be proudly wearing her South Simcoe Police uniform with her retired badge on it. So she'll be proudly wearing that across the province when she's aiding the Lieutenant Governor. And tomorrow we'll be looking forward to the swearing in ceremony, of course, virtually, of our new Deputy Chief of Police, John Van Dyke. And as of tonight, we've had a vacancy in our Police Services Board. It's a public appointment. It comes to us once every 4 years. I should say once every 8 years, because for 4 years it's Bradford's pick, and then for 4 years it's our pick. So we went out and asked for interested parties, and we had some wonderful submissions come in. Again, a lot of them, and it was a tough choice, but I'm pleased to report that the new Police Services Board member is Mr. Todd Cannon. And I look forward to working with him and meeting him virtually, at least for the start. So that, unless there's anything else that takes us, Councillor Waters?
Just one thing, and I thank Councillor Nicol for reminding me of this, that the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority AGM is on Friday, January 22nd, if people are interested.
It's always usually the same day, isn't it? Yours is the 22nd as well, isn't it, Councillor Nicol?
Actually, the following week, the 28th, Friday.
Oh, okay. I might actually get to go to both of them this year. Usually I have to go to one or the other. Okay, so I see no more hands, then we'll move on to the consent agenda list. So if you're joining us for the first time watching council, so we use a consent agenda, and we have our agenda that was online for about a week now. There's a staff recommendation that's suggested, but it's just a suggestion. So every councillor has the ability to pull and amend any recommendation that they like, or sometimes just ask questions or make comment on a certain file. But if it is not pulled and amended, then at the end of the meeting with the confirmatory bylaw, we will confirm all of the recommendations in tonight's meeting. So we'll start with adoption of the minutes. A1, the special council minutes of December the 9th. A2, the council meeting minutes of December the 9th. Oh my goodness, I apologize for this. I meant to call the clerk's office and make a slight amendment instead of wasting everybody's time, but there was one correction on page 20 of the PDF under announcements. The term for the deputy warden is 2 years instead of 1 year. So if council's okay with just having staff correct that without pulling it, I'm seeing some nods. Thank you very much. B1, the Heritage Committee report. Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Worship. No need for me to pull this. I just want to mention that it's sorry to read that Roger Johnson has resigned from the committee. He was a very active and very passionate member from Cookstown, and it's sad to see him leaving the committee up there.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. I agree. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Payne, that Mr. Johnson was the only resident from that was affected by the Cookstown Heritage Conservation District on the committee. And since there's hundreds of houses that are impacted, I'm hoping that you get some interest from somebody that that is in that situation. B2, the Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes. C1, in-services water and wastewater rates. Seeing none, I just wanted to point out that that there is a proposed increase for 2% for water and wastewater fixed rates and a 0.5% increase for the volumetric rates. Keep in mind that We were supposed to have that increase in 2020 and we put it off for 1 year. So there hasn't been any rate increases in our water wastewater services since 2019. C2, the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to have this poll, please.
Thank you. That's referred to committee. C3, the Respectful Workplace Policy Amendments. C4, the Fleet Increased Life Extensions. It's not often we get asked to keep a vehicle longer. I think that's a first for me. D1, the South Innisfil Creek Drain update. Councillor Ices.
I'd like to pull that one, please.
D2, the 2020 Connecting Links application. D3, the National Disaster Mitigation Program funding application. Again, just kudos to staff for spending your Christmas holidays writing grant applications. I know you get sick and tired of hearing me say, let's not leave any money on the table. Let's apply for every grant we can. So it's really nice to see so many grant applications going in. So thank you to staff. D4, comments from the town of Innisfil on the draft OP for the city of Barrie. E1, a bylaw to appoint Mr. Jim Kay as fire chief for the town of Innisfil. I would ask at this time, Mr. Kay, if you're here, if you just wanted to maybe introduce yourself to everybody. Welcome to Innisfil, although we haven't passed the confirmatory bylaw yet, but I just wanted you to meet council and for council to put a face to a name. And we really do appreciate you coming out of retirement to help us at this time. And we know that you have some great experience in the field of sharing services, and we appreciate that. You're on mute, Chief.
A little rusty. Excuse me. Thank you, Your Worship. It truly is a privilege to have the opportunity to serve both communities. And I know I have big shoes to fill, so I think I'd prefer to not even try to fill the shoes and just do the best that I certainly can. But I look forward to working with you, town staff, and the women and men of the Fire and Rescue Services. And I pledge to serve this community the best that I can. So thank you for the expression of confidence.
Thank you, sir. That was G1. These are correspondence items. So I'll put them all together. Did anybody want to speak to any of the correspondence items? Councillor Ices?
Yeah, I didn't want to speak to, well, yeah, I do. I wanted to pull the D4, the Barrie report and the Innisfil comments.
Okay.
And then I'd also like to pull G3.
Thank you.
The Integrity Commission report.
Thank you, Councillor. I will just point out that it is a shame that we weren't able to do a flag raising with Crime Stoppers this month that we normally do, but just wanted to acknowledge the good work of Crime Stoppers and thank them for what they do for keeping our residents safe. Councillor Van Berkel?
Thank you, Your Worship. I missed D3, the National Disaster Mitigation Program. If we could pull that, I would kind of like to talk to that for a minute.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that's everything. So now we'll pass a recommendation for the consent list. And I need a mover and a seconder, please. If everybody's items are on there and we haven't missed any. Councillor Orsatti and Councillor Van Berkel, all those in favor? That's carried. So we go back to item C2, and that was the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I had a conversation with Mr. Kane this afternoon
We
about
have
some.
to go to the committee of the whole.
Councillor Payne, you're not on mute.
Your Worship, just.
Oh, it's my fault.
Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. So I need a mover and a seconder to resolve into committee of the whole. Councillor Fowler and Councillor Payne. All those in favor? That's carried. Now we go to the business items that were pulled. So the first item was Deputy Mayor on item C2.
Thank you, Worship. It's yesterday all over again.
I'm rusty. I had, yep, he gave me a month off. That's what happened.
Oh my God. Okay. So I had a conversation earlier this afternoon with Mr. Kane regarding some of my concerns. This is a funding we're looking for approximately $277,000. Is this to do with the drainage in Bellure and Lefroy that we're dealing with? I just want a clarification first. Can't hear you.
That's D3.
I think first we need a mover and a seconder.
A D3 bill?
Do you have a seconder, sir?
I just want to confirm that we're working on the same one.
Who wants?
I was speaking with Mr. Kane this afternoon.
Mr. Kane?
Okay.
You're on the wrong one.
Yes.
I think you're on the wrong one, Mayor. This
Okay.
is the one. Sorry.
Yes, this is the wrong one. Sorry. So I'll take C2 back and we'll deal with D3 with Councillor Van Berkel. Okay. I had a conversation with Mr. Kane. I think I was confused there. So just clarification.
All right. That's great. But well, we've got this one pulled. We'll need a mover and a seconder. So Councillor Nicol and Councillor Waters. And I just want to again compliment staff for getting this application out so quickly. I think, you know, I know it'll be very competitive, but the fact that this had a really quick closing date, I think means that there'll be less, because larger municipalities just wouldn't be able to get an application in and get it approved quick enough. So there's something to be said for being fairly agile. So thanks to staff for getting this, this funding application into the ISIP group. All in favor of item C1? That is carried. Or sorry, that was C2. Oh boy. All right, next is item D1, and that was Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. This was the item on the South Innisfil Creek Drain, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. So I pulled it just to ask a few questions and also to highlight the Ontario Drainage Act that all municipalities are under. Maybe I'll start with that first. Hewitt Creek, the one that goes behind our home farm, is a municipal drain, and it had some work done on it recently. So I've been getting some calls from residents who got a letter from the town with their share of the costs of maintaining that drain. So these costs are provincially mandated to cover the drainage that we have in rural parts of our town. If you think of it as the sewers in the drainage system that we pay for in the urban areas, this is in the rural areas, and the catchment area is quite big. So even though you might not be right next to the drain, if you're in the catchment area, that's why you have that bill. And that's a very important act for rural residents, for farmers and landowners. And we appreciate being able to share the the benefits of having a good clean water in our town. So that was my first comment. The second comment was with regards to the report, and I was very happy to see that the quote for the work that was outlined in the report came in under budget by over $175,000. So my question to staff would be, as landowners have been assessed costs based on the work that's being done, is that something where they have already been allocated for in their tax billing, or is that will be adjusted when the next round of costs gets passed down through the town ratepayers? So that's my question there.
Thank you. I'll call on our drainage superintendent, Mr. Ninehouse.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor ICs. So when the project is completed, the total cost of the project will be tallied, and it will be levied according to the amended assessment schedules in the engineer's final report. So the cost savings would be spread out according to the items that were bid on in the tender.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nicol?
Thank you, Worship. Procedurally, I'm not quite sure, but I'm not quite sure I heard a seconder for this. And if Councillor ICs doesn't have any amendments to it, I'm happy to second that form to get on the floor for the discussion. And then if so, I just have a comment if I could afterwards.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Nicol, and go ahead.
Thank you. Just great to see, you know, that continues on. It's been so long for South Innisfil Creek Drain, and just reading that the MTO is continuing to come on board and still negotiating and working our way through. So that 400 crossing is paramount to any work that's done upstream. So it's just great to see that they're still engaged, and the town staff have been able to move this so thanks to Jeremy and Jason and Nicole, obviously, for all the work they've got, and others, sorry, that have got to this far. So just looking forward to finally closing this one chapter. So thank you.
Thank you. Well said. I never thought I'd see the day where I saw the MTO being as cooperative as they are at this point. And I think we also need to make sure we thank our MPP, Andrea Kanjan, and the PA to Transportation, King of Surma, who I came up here and also worked with us on this file. So we'll have to make sure we thank them appropriately as well. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the recommendation or to receive as information? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Mr. Ninehouse, very much. The next item is item D3, and that was the National Disaster Mitigation Program, and that was pulled by Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I have a seconder, Deputy Mayor, by the looks of it. First of all, I want to say that I'm excited about this project, that it's moving ahead. We did the EA, and now it's, you know, we're asking for grants to do this. This has been something that I've been dealing with, I think, for the last 25 years on a regular basis, spring and fall. So it's very exciting for me to see this. But as I read this report, I just wonder if you have enough backup to go to the government to ask for money. I was just wondering if the people that did the EA shouldn't be involved, and maybe the landowners. I don't even know whether there's a deal been struck with the landowners, whether we are going to get the acreage we need to put these ponds in, or, you know, what's been put in the report regarding the EA. And I just, you know, because it's been such a long and ongoing thing, I want to make sure this is done right. And I would like maybe a little more involvement in that. I know that I've heard through the rumor that, well, in our budget, actually, that $2.2 million has been budgeted for this. Where's that money coming from? I think that was supposed to come from development. I haven't ever seen an agreement that this is going to happen. So I would kind of be like brought up to date on this. So when my constituents see this in that area, and I live right here in this area, that I can give an honest answer and tell them what's going on.
Thank you, Worship, and through to Council Van Berkel. Yes, I think there's a few questions built into there. You are correct. This has been on the table for many years, probably close to 10 now. Actually, I'm guessing around that mark. So, you know, the wetland and the flood diversion have been part of those discussions and part of the sleeping line discussions. And most recently as last week, those discussions continue with the landowner of that wetland area. To be part of that solution, and we are actively having those conversations. We're in the process right now of confirming the actual areas that are required, so we know exactly, you know, what lands are in play and what landowners we have to talk to. So rest assured, you know, we are having those ongoing discussions as we move towards or through that diversion project now, to make sure that it is a success and much needed for that area. With respect to the 2.2 million that was showing in the approved capital budget, yes, that was shown in there, and that money is available. And it was originally payment for compensation as a result of the sleeping line development that went into council's general funding model, and earmarked from that pool of money to be awarded to this project when it fires up. So we are actively in the process of doing that. And as the project gears up and we start to know the scope a little better, then that will be probably the best opportunity to start reaching out to the public to keep them engaged in the process.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Deputy Mayor Davidson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, this is with Mr. Kane earlier today. My concerns in reaching out to the Sleeping Lions developer in making sure that maybe they have a perspective that we haven't looked at as a town. Maybe they have an opportunity to help us design it in a way, which I brought up back in the fall, that they be involved in any design or work involved, so that betters not only the current community, but it also betterments for the future growth in that area, considering the orbit. And the orbit, I'm sure, will have issues with water and such. So I think to make clarification that the staff are working with the developer concerned here, as Councillor Van Berkel brought up, so we can mitigate any future problems that may concur with the orbit moving forward. So let's look out beyond the Alcona, Bellewaerde, and Lefroy area and encompass everything we can for the future so we don't have a reoccurrence. Mr. Kane, can you expand on that for me, please?
For Your Worship, to Deputy Mayor Davison, yes, you know, the design discussions have included the developer's engineer, so they have been very close to that design process, you know, and in those collective discussions with both the town and the LSRCA. So we are all on the same page with respect to that. The comment regarding the orbit, you know, the orbit will ultimately have to look after its own stormwater and make sure that it doesn't create downstream impacts. However, you know, this project does provide a bit of a buffer. But you know, the design for orbit will be focused on orbit not sending any more water downstream rather than relying on this project. But you know, there will be a buffer there as a result of any flood attenuation in this area.
And a follow-up, Your Worship.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My concern is that the developer was not to cooperate and let us use access to his land to do this work that needs to be done. What is our alternative?
Through Your Worship, to Deputy Mayor Davidson. Obviously, you know, given the cooperative nature of the process to date, we don't expect that to happen. There are a couple of things, though, that you know, further that we can further pursue. One is that the lands in question are required for drainage from the sleeping line development anyway. So there's already a drainage function occurring within those lands. So there is a collective need and benefit for both the town and for the developer to continue to use those lands for that purpose. You know, like any municipal project, if we can't get agreement on lands that are required for the greater public good, there is an expropriation process. You know, it's obviously something that no one at the town enjoys, that process. But, you know, if there is critical infrastructure required, then that is a process that's available to us.
Thank you. Appreciate your input.
Thank you, Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to agree with Councillor Van Berkel that this is a really worthwhile project, and it's certainly time has come, and it's going to be really interesting to see what this can do in terms of alleviating flooding downstream for that community. So I'm really glad to see that. I'm also really quite proud that the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority is working with the environment to basically help resolve this issue in terms of what's called a green infrastructure program. So taking wetlands and using them in the function that they're supposed to be used for, and then they can mitigate these types of situations. The one question I do have for Mr. Kane is that one section of the creek follows along the 6th line there. And as we know that salt is a major problem. There's going to be a major problem down the road. Is there any way of moving that creek inland a little bit away from the road so that we don't get that excessive salt coming off during the wintertime?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Waters, yes. You know, we are all concerned collectively about the impact of salt on the lake. So that's a good observation. I don't have the answer for you right now, but you know, typically moving creeks is a no-no. But in this case, if there's a greater benefit to get away from that source of the salt, then we can look at that. And alternatively, you know, look at adjusting salt application in the vicinity of our waterway should be something that we're doing anyway. And we can certainly look at it in this specific instance.
Well, yeah, I hope so, because it says moving creeks, we're doing that on Park Road. And here, whenever it follows a roadway, it's really not a creek. It's more of a drainage issue becomes. So I think moving inland, creating some sort of natural feature as opposed to along the roadway would be a wise decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I know that there's also a working group, I think at LSRCA, the Freshwater Roundtable, that is working on making or educating people to use less salt. And also there's another working group now looking at alternatives to road salt for new technology in that way too. So hopefully we'll get somewhere with that. Any other questions or comments on this file? Councillor Van Berkel.
Just one comment, Your Worship. I want to thank all the parties involved that have been working on this, and I know they've been working hard on it, and thank them for their involvement, and thank them for keep moving it ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. With that, all those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? That's carried. Next was item D4, the comments from the town of Innisfil on the City of Verity's draft new official plan. And that was Councillor Ices.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I am looking for a seconder. I'm not changing anything.
Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you. Just reading through the analysis that town staff has done on Barry's growth plan and reading those comments about the, I believe the 2041 to 51 projections and Barry not having enough land for that. It seemed a little bit like deja vu all over again. I'm sure the members of council have been here a few terms ago, remember very vividly 2009 and 2010 when Innisfil was annexed. And I was reading back, and Your Worship had, I think, a very accurate quote that Innisfil is tired of being Barry snack food. So so it's in that light that I bring this forward, that you know, the analysis that our staff has done, where does that go, and how will that be acted on, or are there opportunities to discuss this so that we don't get you know, 10, 15 years down the road and this topic of annexation becomes relevant again. So I'm looking for some discussion on that.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. And I have to be truthful and say that was my quote. I stole that from John Matheson from Strategy. Ms. Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Councillor Ices' question. Right now, the City of Barrie, what they've released is a draft of their new official plan, and so we are flagging our concerns at this early stage to continue discussions and collaborations with the City of Barrie to ensure that their density targets, intensification, and in their greenfield areas are increased so that growth to 2051 can be accommodated within their existing boundaries. So we can, we'll certainly keep council up to date as those discussions continue, but this is a draft and we have gotten our comments in early and on time, and we're sharing those with council and keeping council apprised. We are very much aware of the history, and we want to ensure that we work together with the City of Barrie in addressing these concerns, which we also raised with the province as well with the new growth numbers that came out. So it will be the topic of future discussions with the City of Barrie for sure as they work on revising their draft plan.
Thank you for that, Ms. Nordstrom. And I also appreciated the positivity or the opportunity to work together on things as well. I think it showed a good balance in the report. And this government, at least, Minister Clark has said time and time and time again that there will be no annexations unless both parties agree. But of course, that's now, and who knows who will be in that seat at that time. Any other comments or questions on this? Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you. Yes, I want to say that I was happy to see the report and the recommendations, and it just again about the cooperation, but addressing Barrie's the city's existing boundary and the growth beyond 2041. I thought it was well written, and as your worship, as you've alluded to, a very positive way of addressing the red herring of the city boundary and the growth. But we working together, I think gives better strength to both of our boundaries and growth possibilities. So I thought it was a very well written report.
Thank you. And if there's precedent in other places, if you are in Newmarket at the Upper Canada Mall and you go north on Yonge Street and you get to where the Costco is, you went from one municipality to another. You went from Newmarket to East Gwillimbury, and it's seamless. So I'm not sure. And even if you look at the secondary plans for what is it called, Salem and Hewitts, even with the planning there, you see that the roads butt end to the municipality. It just, to me, it looks designed to just take the next chunk, but those are discussions that we'll have to have. And this report is a great place to start. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of receiving it as information? That is carried. Next is item G3, Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. I would look for a seconder to help me get this on the floor. Councillor Fowler. Thank you. For those of you who haven't read the Integrity Commission report, this report was The second one that I've been implicated in with regards to the North Toronto auction parking bylaw change that was done in June of 2019. So it's quite a thorough report, and I would like to extend my thanks to Laura Dean, the Integrity Commissioner, for the Integrity Commissioner for the town of Innisfil, for her professionalism in this latest report. When we as councillors all took the oath of office, part of that oath meant that we agreed to a code of conduct for council. I've always conducted myself in accordance with that oath and take it very seriously. It's not easy to face these kinds of accusations, but I can say that it's a great relief that we have this process in place. After a full, transparent, and independent investigation, there can be now zero doubt about any wrongdoings on my part. That is exactly why we are so fortunate at the town of Innisfil to have a code of conduct, so that anyone, no matter who you are, can voice a complaint. I was more than happy to cooperate with the Integrity Commissioner and am pleased with the result. Just so the public has an idea, since 2019, the cost of this investigation have reached at least $25,000. I think it's also fair to say that the process has been exhausted several times. And out of respect for taxpayers, staff, and all of us, there comes a point when it should stop. So now that this matter has come to a close, I look forward to continuing to focus on the priorities of Ward 1 residents, of constituents of Innisfil, and with council and staff to support our community through these difficult times. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. Any questions or comments from anyone else? Seeing none, call for the vote. Oh, Councillor Payne, was that a question?
No, I just had a comment for Kevin. Kevin, there was no doubts at all.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. All in favor of the recommendation to receive? Any opposed? That is carried. Next is the RISE recommendation. The committee will rise and go back into formal council, and that's moved by Councillor Fowler and seconded by Councillor Sadi. All those in favor? That is carried. And adopting the recommendations from the committee of the whole, moved by Councillor Payne and seconded by Councillor Waters. All those in favor? That is carried. Next is notices of motion. We've had none received. And finally, announcements. Is there any announcements? Councillor Nicol.
Your Worship, just quickly, although I usually seem to be able to catch up on some of the procedural things, and whenever we miss a mover or second or whatever else, I have to stand corrected once again, and I do apologize, Your Worship. You're correct. The NBCA AGM is the 22nd, the same as the LRCA. So I truly apologize. You were right once again.
First time this year. Thank you, Councillor. Any other announcements? Councillor Asadi.
Thank you. Just an announcement to any of the residents who may be watching that the Innisfil libraries are continuing to offer curbside pickup for residents. So you may go online and order your books and arrange to pick up your book safely curbside from the location closest to you. They're also offering again the virtual programs, and so encourage residents to go online to the Innisfil Library, take a look what they offer, and they're also started again with some of the care calls.
Thank you, Councillor. I saw another hand. Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to shout out a resident in my ward, and also thank Jennifer Richardson again for that wonderful community building event contest that she had at Christmas time with decorating the houses. One of the winners in Stroud at 2834 Shearing Crescent, their decorations are still up for the town to enjoy. And Marilee Bagineau, I really want to thank you for this this for the town to give people this gift, and I think it's going to stay up until the weekend if you wanted to drive by there. If you haven't seen it yet, it is quite beautiful and well done.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. I think it's InPower Corporation that should be thanking them.
Ladies.
Yeah. Other announcements for the good of the community. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to just remind everyone that now that we're back into a lockdown and restaurants don't have eat-in service, that we try to support them the best we can by ordering out. So because they weren't expecting to go through this again, and they are. And I think, we have a variety of good restaurants in Innisfil. So if we can just rededicate ourselves to helping out, that would be greatly appreciated. On a second note, in terms around Christmas lights still up, this is the first time in the 33 years that we've lived in Innisfil that I still have my Christmas tree up and lit, because of COVID, we're just keeping it on. We're keeping the lights on because it brings some joy to us. So just good for those people who still have their lights on. I still truly enjoy all the lights. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. And just a note for those of you who are out for a walk getting exercise, which is an essential outing. The Hope Tree in the Innisfil Beach Park is lit every evening. The mailbox is there for your hopes for this new year, and it will be there till March. So please go down and enjoy that. It looks even better in person than it does in pictures. And keep your eye on the town website for upcoming changes and whatever is going to happen after EOC keeps meeting, and after we read these regs, we'll make sure that residents are aware of what's going on. I just read tonight that both Newmarket and Whitby have now closed their rinks, so we'll see where we land. We want to keep everybody safe, and that will always be our #1 priority, and we will always follow the advice of the medical officer of health. And just remind everybody to just please stay within your households and also be kind to one another. We've gotten this far. There's the light at the end of the tunnel. Those vaccines are starting to get out in our community, and we will persevere through this. So seeing no other announcements, then we'll ask for the confirming bylaw, and mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Van Berkel and Councillor Ices, all those in favor? That is carried. And finally, adjournment. That would be Councillor Nicol and Councillor Fowler. All those in favor? That is carried. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for those who are watching. Thanks to all of staff. I should have asked you, Mr. Rayner, if there was anything for the good of the community, or any staff who wanted to turn on their camera, and so we could thank you for being here with us tonight, and remind everybody that there is only one regular council meeting in January, so we'll see you all again. I think it's February 13th. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening, and go.
Night.
Night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.